Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Pod by the BAE, presented proudly by our friends here at Homefield Apparel. Homefield Apparel, I don't know if you guys saw this, released a few new USF apparels right before the season started. Great timing, because now you can use our code BAE25 for 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. Or alternatively, if you've already ordered, you can use our affiliate link that is going to be in the description of the podcast and on the YouTube channel to help support our channel. Really good stuff here that they've done. Kind of a shock to me, at least. I was not ready for them to release some new USF merch just so quickly. I had the rumblings. I've had the conversations. I heard everyone complaining. And it came out of nowhere, gave us the home field blessing with that rousing victory on Thursday, which we'll get to. Seth, I know you're eyeballing something. What's top of mind here for you?
So just looking at the new stuff, with the I think the March Victorious hoodie looks lovely shade of green. I really enjoy the this Bulls Are We shirt as well, with like script Bulls. I think that's fun. Really, all of them are pretty cool. I do like the older USF logos. I think they're really fun. And then the green and like the older yellow, and not as much gold, but more yellow, I think really pops. It's kind of like, our hat here. We went with like a yellow and the green. I think it really pops. So I enjoy all the old stuff. So I would be happy with just about anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I looked at the vintage USF crew neck and the vintage USF long sleeve for about 30 minutes before I realized it was a crew neck and a long sleeve. I was like, did they just upload the same asset?
Doubled it up.
Yeah. But no, it's fantastic. But again, for first-time buyers, BAE25 for 15% off your first order. Or alternatively, if you're a repeat customer, please use our affiliate link in the description. You can also use that for non-USF related purchases. All it will do is help support our channel here at Pod by the BAE and the Bay Area Examiner. So, Seth.
Yes.
Unbeknownst to me, there was a football game on Thursday.
There was.
Would you like to know how much of the game I watched?
I have a good guess.
Didn't get a chance to watch. And so now subsequently, I don't think I'm allowed to watch any more USF games the rest of the year.
That is a tough spot to be in. They played pretty well. So we'll see. Maybe give it a go on Saturday, and then if it works out, you'll be all right. But if it doesn't, maybe you'll have to stay away for a while. I don't know.
You know what I'll do is I'll see how the first quarter goes. Actually, first half really. That's probably the better litmus. People get their punches in and everything, and then I'll see what happens. Then maybe I'll tune in for the second half. But USF opened the season by absolutely romping Boise State 34-7 in front of a pretty decently crowded Raymond James Stadium.
Student section was packed. That was really good to see. The students that whole end zone was kind of just every seat looked like it was full. They brought a lot of energy, so that was really cool to see. Now the game got so out of hand that a lot of them left a little early, probably get the party started. Unfortunately, they were going to let them rush the field, but most of the students had already left. So you got some students that rush the field. They did it in a very orderly fashion. They walked down the stairs and ran on the field. So that was fun. But the game was such a killer. Like, you just crushed them, that the students were like, all right, cool. Let's go do something else now. We've won this game. We've dominated this top 25 opponent. We're moving on to something else now. So
how quickly the times have changed. The youths. Back in my day, we was attention span. Time. Yeah. See, if they made it into a TikTok, that's been done in 10 minutes, they would have been able to rush the stands.
It's true.
But in fairness to the orderly rushing, I have made that jump before. That is not a very friendly jump. That is like a full.
It was. I would have would have been an orderly rusher as well. I'm not trying to blow out a ankle or an ACL to rush the field.
Use the stairs.
Yeah, they were open to you. But it was a great game, good atmosphere. The crowd really got into it. Weird start time, so obviously the crowd was a little bit more late arriving. But it filled in pretty good. Boise State brought a bunch of people. It was the weather. We thought all week the weather might be really nasty. It held off. It was nice and humid, and it was still pretty sticky, even like as the sun went down. And you could see Boise, I think the pace and everything and the temperature did start to get to them towards the end of the game. They started to look worn down a little bit. But, you know, part of that was just because USF was up on them and able to kind of keep the tempo going. And that could probably contribute just as much as that really humid weather. So really good night all around and really big win on a big stage for USF. They were kind of the talk of the town there for, you know, at least one night, and then one of the big winners of the weekend on basically everybody's list. So really good way to start the season. Much better than previous season starts. So
yeah,
that's a positive.
Quite a bit. Yeah. I mean, it was almost a complete, as far as box scores go, right? I think you basically got like one of everything that you really kind of look for. You know, turnovers, especially, is probably the big thing. Both forcing turnovers on downs. Got a long field goal at Nico Gramatica. You got a trick play against Trick Play University. You had a very complete Byron Brown performance, save for a passing touchdown, which we'll get to the stats here in a little bit. But I mean, for the most part, you know, that was almost everything that you could ask for. You know, you gave up a lead and then you scored 34 unanswered. I don't think that there's anything else you would really ask for out of that, right?
They won all they won all like the coaching cliche areas too. They won third downs. They did better on third downs. They won the red zone. They scored in the red zone. Boise State didn't really score in the red zone. Turnovers, you caused turnovers. You didn't really turn the ball over, right? So all like the cliched coach speak ones were like, if we win these, we got a really good chance to win the game. They won all of them. They won the explosive play battle as well, which was really important because despite kind of the final score, the offense wasn't really that good, like on a play-to-play basis, but they did generate big plays that kind of allowed them to score and get that big margin in the game. I think there's some people that are like, oh, well, this just means Boise's not very good. I don't think that's true. I think they probably still win 9 to 10 games this year. Maybe they don't, but I don't think the Mountain West is very good. And I think they got Notre Dame as kind of the only really tough game they have left. So they'll probably win a ton of games. USF got them off their game and made them throw the ball. I went back and looked. I think they threw the ball 45 plus times in this game, or pretty close to it, 43 or 48, somewhere in that range. Last year, they only threw the ball over 35 times, I believe, one time, and it was against Oregon when they lost. They threw it 40 times in that game and lost. So this is not a team that wants to throw the football out. Threw it 35 times in their loss against Penn State. I thought USF did a really good job stopping the run, which we talked about a little bit last week. They were good at stopping the run last year. So you felt like if they could continue that and make Boise have to throw, then that's where they kind of had their chance, and that kind of came to fruition. And they were even better on defense than I think we thought they might be. So really, really good job, especially by the defense in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'd be remiss not to mention kind of the turning point of the game, at least a little bit. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you know, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. But I mean, that very well could be the season defining moment.
I think that's the play. Like when you look back at the game, that's the play everyone's going to remember from the game, right? That and maybe Byram trucking some dudes in the end zone. But that the fake punt will be the play that is when this game, if this game lives in lore, say USF goes on, wins a conference championship, and you're kind of reminiscing on the season, this will be the fake punt game. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And not to totally miss what could also be a very important moment. To me, I think the game probably flipped a little bit when I believe it was Gaines fumbled before that drive. They were, if I recall correctly from watching highlights, that they were making together a little bit of a drive, pretty much just in field goal range, and then USF forces a fumble, returns it, and at that point, both teams are trading blows, trading punts, and everything like that. That could have really flipped the momentum if Boise State goes up 10-10 at that point, or goes tied 10-10. But then for USF to stall out and then call a fake punt. Which your sample size at that point, by the way, for USF to say, "Hey, yeah, we should go ahead and call a fake." If I'm looking at it correctly, they had 2 punts. Boise State had 2 punts going into that moment. So a ballsy call with a very limited sample size to say, "Yeah, let's put in third string true freshman quarterback to throw it up to Keshawn Singleton," basically.
So going back and watching it, it seemed like it was a call that they knew Boise might be in like a safe punt return look, where their corner was going to stay lower than he normally would for like a safe punt return type thing. I don't know. I was trying to kind of figure out, and I kind of wish, I don't know if they would have given us the answer, but I kind of wish we would have asked, like, what was the look you saw that like made you put this in? And that's my guess, possibly, because Keshawn Singleton just runs right by the guy and he doesn't really carry him. So I'm assuming maybe they had some type of safe punt where the guy would kind of look for any throws, and then once the ball's kicked, to go find it. So maybe that was the look, but I'm not sure. Nathan, you're on with us now. So we were just talking, is this like, let's say USF goes on and has a really great year, the fake punt is going to be like the defining play from this game, right? Like when you're going back and looking on, you're like, oh, that's the fake punt game.
Oh, 100%. I don't think it's even close. Like maybe Byram's second rushing touchdown where he just like absolutely bodies the guy at the end zone. But the moment that everybody will look back to is this. It's the fake punt, and it was just such like Steve kind of mentioned it, like such a momentum turner. It just, Boise did not recover from that moment, and you kind of saw USF slowly start to kind of put their foot on Boise State's neck, and they just did not let up the rest of the game.
And it happened a little later in the game. When I went back and watched it, I was like, oh, this happened much later in the game than I realized. There was 8 minutes left in the third quarter. Like it was halfway through the third. I kind of been like, oh, it was early in the second. Not really. And then another interesting thing on it. So if you're like on Game on Paper, we like to use that for stats. They have like win percentage added or win probability added. The number one play in the game was the fake punt. It added 19% of win probability. Yeah. So that play was like the biggest play of the game. The next biggest one was the one Steeg mentioned, the Sire Gaines fumble that took away 17% of win probability from Boise State. So then that happened within Sire Gaines was right before the end of the half, but that happened within like, kind of that 10-minute of game time sequence to really kind of blow the game open. So
right. Yeah, I mean, and all credit to USF too. I mean, you could feel the sense of urgency kind of come into fruition there as well once they went up 17-7. I mean, it didn't seem like they were content with, oh, okay, we're good here. Like it was, like you said, pedal to the metal. Obviously started out a little rough. Golesh mentioned that today in the presser, said, we started out a little sluggish, and he took all responsibility and said that was mostly on me. I wanted to get Byram into a groove before we started, before we really started to unleash. And then I think at halftime, he probably pretty much said, fuck it, let's start throwing it.
Yeah, what was kind of fascinating is once USF scored, got that Nico Gramatica 52-yarder, and then they scored again, it felt like Boise was just so out of sorts, and they didn't really know how to come back from it. And even going into halftime, only up 10-7, I didn't think like this was a game USF would or should lose. Like it just felt Boise was just bad. I think it's clear Matson's not the guy for them. He's a negative when it comes to Boise State. Anytime he's actually had to go up against like a competent team, and turns out this USF team may be more competent than even I thought they would be. He's kind of crumbled. Not to take anything away from USF, but man, I thought he would be a lot better than he was. But Seth, I think the biggest upset of the night is USF didn't pick him off once, and he gave them multiple opportunities
He tried
to do so. Like,
yeah,
could not give the ball away.
No, that's why I've seen some people kind of say, well, it was just kind of bad luck for Boise. They lost a bunch of fumbles. USF fumbled and recovered them. That's just fumble luck. That'll happen. But I think USF got like two hands on at least a couple of passes that should have been picked for sure. And then we're right there on a couple others where a guy just maybe is a fraction of a second late turning his head, that if he's kind of has his head turned, because they had them fooled. And we'll talk about it in the film room later this week. They had Madsen pretty fooled on those, and he threw it right to where you had a guy, but he just kind of didn't quite turn his head fast enough, and the Boise receiver was able to make a play. So, I thought the defense had a really good game plan. They mixed it up. They mixed their coverage up. They weren't just hyper aggressive all man. Where on the other side of the ball, Boise State was pretty aggressive in coverage, and USF I think was kind of like, oh, okay, and that's when they started hitting some big shots over the top. So it was interesting to see that. But I thought the USF defense played really, really well and confused Madsen. I don't think he's quite as bad as he looked, but he also missed some easy ones when they were driving down the field. Like they had chances. They did not capitalize on anything, and USF didn't give them much. But when they did have those chances, they didn't really make anything of them. So really good game by the USF defense, and not Boise's best look.
No, I think the one throw that kind of stands out for Madsen that was kind of encompassing of his night, I think it was like the 4th and short. He's got the running back in the flat and misses him by like 4 yards upfield. It was a really, really bad throw.
It was so bad the running back wasn't sure if it was thrown to somebody else. Like he kind of
he's like,
balls out, he reached for it, then he kind of looked to see if there was somebody else like in the air. Yeah, so
it was not a good time had by the Broncos down here in Tampa.
How terrible did the Boise State pimp feel in that jacket, in that humidity with that game? I think that's what he's called, right? I think I saw somebody call him that online. I don't know if that's like an official title or not.
Well, it can be. I'm sure it is. I'm sure he's got a
Oh, my Lord. A thick, like full body length jacket.
I mean, kudos to the bit committing to it, I guess. But
I guess, yeah.
Couldn't be me.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I know we'll kind of talk about this more in depth in the Ponderosa, but I thought this was a really fun little tidbit. We had the video this preseason of the Byron Brown arm punt, some would call it, but it was still a dot. He has definitely changed his throwing motion, and I think we've talked to enough people to understand it is what it is. It works for him. Let's let it ride. And to that point, Byram hit 2 passes of 20 or more yards down the field against Boise State, which is more than he did all of 2024, where he had 1 completion of more than 20 yards down the field. So, I mean, if it works, don't try to fix it. He was 2 of 3, 92 yards. And he was the one incompletion was maybe a yard and a half, 2 yards, a little long down the left sideline. So,
yeah. And then his incompletion and the one of the incompletions in that 10 to 19 yard range, he was 1 for 2. There was just a drop. That was the one Koger kind of bobbled, but that was a great throw too. So he was dialed in from 10 yards plus. He was pretty much dialed in.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a really good job of giving him confidence. I think him just getting hit again and hitting somebody kind of spread open this offense, and it'll be fun to see what they do against this Florida team who so if you watch it wasn't competitive from the jump. It's really hard to gauge what they're good at, the Gators, going into this game. 55-0. Long Island had 2 first downs. I think they averaged 2.2 yards per play. they did what they were supposed to do against a really bad team.
Yeah, and they sat some guys. So they had a few of their guys that may be starting. One for sure, Caleb Banks is a defensive tackle for them. He is, he's a guy that's getting like first round draft buzz. He didn't play, but he will be available. They said this week, so he'll be back. Other than that, on defense, I think everyone pretty much played for them. Offensively, they were missing a couple of receivers, but they looked kind of rusty on offense. So I think that'll be kind of the matchup there. They look Lagway. It turns out practice is important. So like if you miss like a lot of practice, it's probably going to affect you a little bit, and it affected them a little bit early. Long Island also came out and played kind of a funky defense and moved and twisted and stunted and then kind of moved guys all over the place, which will be interesting. They struggle with that early. USF can get into some of that kind of stuff, so I'll be interested to see how much of that they do because he gave Florida some problems. Now they got it figured out, but the personnel for USF is obviously a ton better than it is for the old Long Island Sharks. So it should be a nice matchup there. USF's defense against Florida's offense.
Yeah, I'm excited to see DJ. Hopefully, he's like fully healthy. This got a stud running back. I think the thing that you can take maybe away from what the Gators have been able to do is probably they had some really good notes and basically their game notes this week about the last 5 games dating back to last season when they were kind of 5-5 scuffling along and finished really strong, especially that win versus Tulane in the bowl game as well. I think the defense is giving up like 10.4 points per game, obviously including a 55-0 over Long Island, but that's still really impressive. They've been able to get the most out of their talent the back half of the season. I'm not entirely sure if that is the teams that they were playing, like a little bit like USF, like, all right, the Bulls seem to get a lot better toward the back end of the year, but it was playing down the competition a little bit.
Their last 4 were LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State, and Tulane. Ole Miss game, Ole Miss kind of had their way with them until the end and kind of screwed around a little bit. Ole Miss, it was a lot of like get to 4th down and get off the field, very bend but don't break.
Mm-hmm.
LSU, they played pretty well defensively. Florida State was terrible, and Tulane was like a skeleton crew of their like they played. What was the kid the Oregon transfer Ty Thompson? He was awful. Yeah, so he was playing quarterback. So it was kind of like you don't really. They've improved quite a bit, but they've gone to more. Towards the end of last year, it was more of a bend but don't break type thing. No explosive plays, make people earn it down the field. So I don't know if that's how they're going to continue to play. I think that would probably be how you'd want to play USF. Is you don't want to give up explosives or you make them earn it down the field because they haven't really proved they can do that yet. But if you're kind of get out of place early in the year last year, they gave up a ton of explosives and got just whipped by Miami, Texas A&M. Even had a little like they had guys. Tennessee got guys open against them, but Nico couldn't hit them. So like USF's going to have a good plan, and that's what I think. With all these games, Golesh always has something up his sleeve in all these big games to generate some shot play, some points. So I think USF will get some, but I don't know how consistent they'll be.
Right,
that's my big question.
The massive question is. The running backs were kind of dreadful in the running game for the Bulls. You can't be so reliant on Byron Brown. Like he was great against Alabama last year. He ran the ball. I think it was like he ended up 25 plus times against Alabama. You can't continually do that against high caliber opponents and expect to survive the season. Outside of Alvin Isaac's 49-yard run when the game was iced, I think the final at that point it was 31-7. Like game was over. The Bulls had 12 carries for 25 yards from the running backs. That is not going to work against Florida. You need to be able to #establish it a little bit. And they clearly weren't able to do that. They abandoned it fairly quickly. Alvin Isaac, outside of the 49-yard run, it was 2 carries, 3 yards. Cartavius Norton, 7 for 15, and it was an 8-yard the 8-yard touchdown run in there. And then Sam Franklin, 3 carries, 7 yards. So you got to get those guys going. The 8-yard touchdown run was the longest of the game, by a running back up until that point, up until the Isaac run.
And you had to break a tackle on a free hitter to get 8 yards.
Yeah. And there was some offensive line reworking. You won't have Derek Bowman for the first month of the season at least. I wouldn't expect him back until after the bye week. Zane Herring was a serviceable left tackle for the most part. The guards, Cole Skinner
and it's possible you're down a guard too, right? Didn't Schrader get 7? It's possible he may not play this week as well.
Sure, yeah. If you're basing it off PFF grades, possibly not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, but you potentially are down 2 guys you thought would be starting for you on the offensive line going into week 2 here.
His 33 snaps, according to PFF, were rough for Schrader. Skinner seemed to kind of steady the ship a little bit. Cole Best's fine. Jack Wilty was a little bit on skates early on. Settled in a little bit would be the nice way to put it. And, when you have a guy like Byram, he can kind of cover up some of the deficiencies. But you saw it early the first couple of drives. It's the push the defensive line was getting up the middle against the Bulls interior was a tough look. They, Golesh self-admitted on Tuesday, a lot more outside zone, a lot more QB runs, and they were able to kind of get stuff going. Florida's got, Florida speed, and I don't know if the outside zone runs are going to be as prevalent and work as well as they did against Boise State.
Yeah, they're going to have to really get unique to get a run game established here. I mean, and also in fairness, between Boise State, Florida, and Miami, we can probably all agree that's your 3 best defensive lines you're going to face all year, with a sizable gap between 3 and 4, right? Right. You might run into some, a guy or two, but as far as a complete unit, if you can get out of this stretch and get into South Carolina State with what you think is your 5 going forward, and they're relatively healthy, you might be in a pretty good state. And I would look more for the running game to get really established after that bye week, because at this point, man, it not only do you have do you run a system that is kind of hard for running backs to really, really, really get going unless they're getting a vast majority of the carries. You're going up against pretty much the teeth of some of the best defensive lines in college football right now. So, quid pro quo, you're going to have some bad moments probably in the next 2 weeks, but hopefully, iron sharpens iron, or whatever coaching cliche you want to say to justify poor offensive line blocking for running backs. Maybe.
Yep. I will say my keep the point differential under 50, and they win the conference title is looking great right now. I just got an additional.
You got 43 points between Florida and Miami, so
I mean, we could probably do it. It seems doable. Is there anything else you guys want to kind of touch on before we get into the predictions and I mourn my 0-1 start?
No.
So
I want to know.
Shut up. So 4:15 SEC Network. Gators are ranked 13th and 15th respectively in the polls. USF receiving votes in the AP, 25 points in the AP, sitting 33rd. Coach's poll 39th with 9 points. So big moment for the Bulls. I think being the main game Thursday night put a lot of eyeballs on this team, and I think you'll see more eyeballs against this Florida team and against Miami. And it is an interesting spot for the Gators where they have 2 massive road tests coming up right after USF. So I'm not saying trap game, but
do you know what their next 4 are after this?
It's not
game?
fun.
I think it's at LSU, Miami, Texas A&M.
God.
But to be fair, there's a bye week between the first two and then the last two, so they do get a break there. But that's a tough slate of games. It has to be the toughest schedule in the country this season.
I think now that Florida State, I saw today, now that Florida State's decent, like 9 of the remaining games are against AP top 25 teams. And USF could potentially get there by the end of the season. So you may have played like 10 top 25 teams by the end of the year.
Goodness.
God. Well, you guys asked for this.
Yeah.
You wanted to add Oklahoma.
Actually, they want even more of that. They want the
Merry Christmas
game schedule. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I think they're hoping for more of like a Vanderbilt, Kentucky type vibe for that night.
Yeah, I think so too. So let's get into picks, predictions. We'll go from there. Recap last week. Seth and Steeg both picked under 62.5. That hit. I did Boise State -6.5, but I still won money in real life. So I came away up $2. University of Florida is a 17.5 point favorite according to Hard Rock Bet. The over-under is 56.5. This is a 4:15 game. There may be some weather issues. Florida at 4 o'clock seems
it's either going to rain heavy or be exceptionally hot. One of the two.
Yes. So, Steeg, what you got for this game? Over under 56.5, or are Gators covering 17.5?
I went safe last week with the under. I mean, I think that was the safe call, was to do the under. This one will be a little bit more bold for. I have UF at plus 17.5. Not necessarily for any bad reasons and not very indicative against USF. I just think that this UF team is really good. I think they know that this is a situation where they have to not necessarily look ahead to their next opponent, but I can probably say with a little bit of certainty that Billy does know that you want to get in and out of this one with as little injuries as possible and as quickly as possible to start the recovery to get the road to Baton Rouge going. So I have UF winning handedly. They'll start big, they'll kind of ease off the pedal and everything like that, but I don't think USF has enough in the tank to make up a 17-point deficit the way that they want it to be.
That's fair. So I'm going to be the exact opposite of you. I think USF can cover the 17.5. That's what I'm going. USF plus 17.5. I think this team showed they may be a little bit different, and I could be just dead wrong, and they get up for a game and kind of crap the bed. It's been known to happen. I feel like this team's a little bit different. I think Byron Brown kind of got his swagger back. If you go watch that second rushing touchdown where he dead legs, cuts the corner, gets in. There was some oomph behind that one. I think if anybody saw the sketch, the post game sketch that the guy does with the film room session, that guy went in on number 4 for Boise State, and it was the exact guy that Byron Brown was kind of messing with because that man got cooked, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Byron Brown is now his father. So kudos to him. Congrats. I think this team can – I mean, shit. Jeff Scott was competitive in the swamp. I can't fathom.
Anthony Richardson is not walking through that door.
Like, I can't fathom Alex Golesh not having this team prepared enough to compete for long enough to kind of keep it close. I mean, it opened at 19.5 and it's already down to 17.5. I'm sure it's at 17, maybe 16.5 in some places.
I think it'll get low.
Why not?
I think it'll get closer to 14. I don't think it'll get all the way there, but it'll get lower as we get closer to the game. I think the public really likes USF.
Yeah,
so
I think we'll see it too.
I think you'll see this number get lower as we get closer to the game.
Yeah. And so, Seth, that leads to you.
I'm going to take under 56.5. I think USF's going to have trouble moving the football because I don't – if last week's any indication, I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball.
Right.
And if Florida's able to take away the explosives, I think that'll severely limit the USF offense. They've played Tennessee, so they're not too – like the tempo is not going to be foreign. But I also think the USF defense could give Florida some problems. Like USF's really athletic on the perimeter. And if they do decide to load the box and play man coverage and Lagway's rusty like he was to start last game, I think they can just be like, all right, we're going to load the box. We're going to stop the run and make you hit explosives. And it'll kind of be if he's on, maybe he does. If he's not, you've got a game. I don't feel great about either side. If I had to pick somebody on the side, I'd probably pick USF to cover just because it feels like a lot of points and USF's going to play probably to the very end. But it's interesting. A lot of you see some of the gambling guys, and then you see SP Plus has it at 20. That's kind of, and then if you look, I'm sure we'll talk about it more, but USF's success rate on offense was really bad against Boise State, like 11th percentile in the country. They were just so explosive, it didn't matter. But if you're not able to be explosive, it could be a long night. So, but you do have a stud at quarterback, which helps change all that. So I think it'll be a fun game. I think it'll be a good matchup. Should be a really juiced up crowd for both sides. I'm sure a lot of USF people are going to go, so it should be a really cool atmosphere. But I think I'm going to go under just because I think both defenses might come out early and be able to play both offenses tough. So give me the under 56.5.
There we go. So Steeg and I on opposite sides of this line. Seth going under. It should be fun. Again, SEC Network, 4:15. USF can make a really loud statement by somehow pulling this off. I think Billy may not make it to next week if this happens. But
you're probably, are you game day? Are you game day the following week?
That is a shoot. Why wouldn't you be? You're definitely ranked.
Yes.
What?
Let me look. I will look and see what the schedule is.
But does the crowd in Miami travel for games? I just
it'll be a top 25 matchup. Looks like there's nothing else really. Texas A&M Notre Dame would be the only other one. So Florida LSU, but Florida would just have lost to USF, so that probably wouldn't go there. So yeah, it's kind of Texas A&M Notre Dame would be your competition. But Georgia Tennessee, I guess, could be the other one. Those are the two.
Oh, it's gonna be Georgia Tennessee.
But if USF wins, is that game going to be on ESPN? Right?
That game's that's on the CW.
Flex
you
to
might want to
ESPN.
flex that baby. The C dub.
Oh my god,
that's a C dub. That could be a top 20
day.
That's a top 25 C dub game.
Oh my god, they're gonna be selling jewelry during timeouts.
Do you know how many ITT Tech commercials you're gonna see?
Yeah.
Oh
Education
my god.
connection.
Oh, JG Wentworth is gonna come back with a vengeance.
Oh my gosh.
The CW is currently sitting on a potential gold. They're like
the Flash Supergirl pregame show or what?
Oh man. Oh, that'd be phenomenal.
Oh my god, can we make a CW game day version?
I'm sure there's oh my gosh.
Somebody
from Dawson's Creek is the guest picker.
Oh my god.
What's Joshua Jackson up to these days?
I think James Vanderbeek knows ball.
Yeah. I think he better.
He was on he was in what's it called? Oh my gosh.
Varsity Blues.
Yes. I'm bored. Almost had to take my football card there.
Oof. Yeah. But if you guys are driving up to Gainesville, be safe. I-75 is the worst, and just be careful. Gainesville is also the worst, so just be careful.
It's going packed.
Count the jorts. Highest point.
They're starting to wear the jorts ironically now, so it's going to be high.
Oh God.
They've become self-aware.
Oh no, you hate when that happens.
I saw somebody bragging about the jorts the other day, so it could be a high jort number.
Oh God. Someone keep track. We'll have a few folks up there covering the game, and we'll have some fun. I think Seth, you'll be at home. I'll be at home.
Yes.
So there's a decent chance if things are going halfway decently, there's a halftime show that we could do. So be on the lookout for that. Basically, depending on how the game vibes are, we'll do a halftime show. But for the time being, be safe, drive smart, go Bulls.
Go Bulls.